The partnerships also help us in ways that they already know people. They have connections, and that helps us to make those same connections and stuff. They help us introduce those connections. We can't do it without them. It's a partnership that goes both ways, you might say.
I'm Brownfield's Meghan. Grebner. With me today is Brad Daugherty, who's Vice Chair of the Illinois Soybean Association. You're from West Union, Illinois. Thank you for taking some time to chat with us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Let's start first. Tell me a little bit about your operation.
Well, live in Clark County, Illinois, farm about 2,200 acres with my son Aaron, and then I also have an older son, Brandon, that farms with his father-in-law. And so between all four of us, we kind of farmed 4,400 acres, so that keeps us pretty busy. 1,000 acres is irrigated and stuff, and so we grow corn, soybeans, wheat, double crop beans, seed corn production, and green bean production because of the irrigation. So pretty diversified.
That's definitely a specialty crop that's grown in actually a lot of spots in Illinois, right?
Where there's irrigation and green beans are grown, yes.
Well, we're not going to talk about green beans today.
I understand. Soybeans.
So we're going to talk more about soybeans.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the power of partnerships in agriculture for farmers right now, especially looking at kind of the ag economy and just how things are sitting overall.
Basically, for Illinois Soybean Association, without those partnerships, we couldn't accomplish half the things, if not more, of what we do. We have research, the Soybean Research Center just came into its own about a year ago, and it's up and running, but it takes dollars. And so those partnerships help provide those dollars. And so the partnerships also help us in ways that they already know people. They have connections, and that helps us to make those same connections and stuff. They help us introduce those connections. We can't do it without them. It's a partnership that goes both ways, you might say. But we rely on those partnerships, and we treasure, you might say, or cherish their interest in Illinois soybean.
When you think about all of the elements that go into those partnerships, it seems like it's a rising tide lifts all boats, right? More investment provides for research and technology for the future for farmers like yourself.
Yes, very much so. Last year we had over 127 different projects going. That takes a lot of funding. And so, like I said, the partnerships help provide that, and especially AGI, they're a big part of that for us.
I understand you're an AGI customer, correct?
Yes.
And
yes.
You have a pretty powerful bin manager story, so I want you to tell me a little bit about that.
Well, my two sons are the ones that really did the AGI bin manager story. I had no clue what they were doing. They just said, some guys are here working on the bins, and I didn't know just what for. I figured, well, okay, we're doing some bin repair or something. And one morning, about a week later, I came over to the farm, and it was foggier and all get out, and I heard the dryer or the aeration fan going. And I thought, oh, no, that bin's full of beans. And, for me, you never do that. You never run fog, moisture in a bin. And so I went and shut it off. Didn't realize what was actually taking place. And my son Aaron, later that day, asked, they said that fan's not running. And I said, well, no, I shut it off because I had that fog this morning. I was afraid it was going to mess the beans up, and to get them swelled, and we're in troubles. And he kind of chewed me out for doing that and stuff, and said, no, we're hydrating those beans and stuff. They were dry when we put them in there, which I knew, but had no clue we were hydrating beans. I didn't know the whole story. And so got chewed out, and still, even the next day when I came over and still had the fog, I wasn't too sure in my mind. I mean, you just didn't do that with beans, especially. You're afraid they're going to swell up, and you'll never get them out of that bin. They're going to swell up to where they're going to mold, and that was all in my head. And it was about 3 years ago when beans were like $15, and this was a 10,000 bushel bin of beans, and I'm thinking $150,000 is at risk here. And so every time I'd come over, and even one day it was drizzling, showering a little bit, and this thing was running. I kept telling her, I don't think we need to be doing this. And he said, no, it'll be all right. They said, it'll work. And lo and behold, when we took those beans out about 3 months later, they were put in, most of them at 9 and 10%. Well, they came out at 12.7 to 12.8 on moisture, right on the money. And so, I had to tell him, okay, but back in my day, no, you didn't do that. And but it worked. It really worked. So it amazed me.
Looking at that technology, how does that really highlight the return on investment in making these types of investments in operation, especially when you're thinking about every bushel matters, every dollar matters when it comes to profitability?
Just rehydrating those beans, taking them from a 9 and 10% and stuff and going up to 12.7, that's moisture you're actually putting back into those beans. You're gaining bushels. And at $15, yeah, it's paying for itself pretty fast. So I was tickled to death with the result. It was just getting in my head, getting over that hurdle, you might say, that back in that's just a no-no. In my day, you don't do that, or you're going to be in troubles. But it worked. And the next year, I would come over and hear it running and stuff, but I wouldn't touch it. I left it alone. No, I didn't touch it. But still had thoughts of, I'm hoping this works. And sure enough, it worked again and stuff. So I'm convinced it will work. But you've got to get in your head. It's different way of doing things.
Brad, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful 2025 growing season.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
I'm Meghan Grebner for Brownfield.